I, 35M, and my wife, 35F, have been married for 6 years. Some background: 7 months ago my wife gave birth to our daughter, I'll call her Sadie. Ever since my wife gave birth she has been getting increasingly rude and refuses to do any work around the house and says she's still healing from giving birth, even though she always goes out with her friends. 3 months ago my wife's stepsister Hannah, 25F, called my wife and asked her if she could temporarily move in with us. She lived in a crappy apartment building and tenants recently had to leave due to the unsafe conditions. Hannah didn't have enough to get another place right away, hence asking. My wife seemed very eager to let Hannah move in despite always claiming they never get along. They came to the agreement that she would help with Sadie in exchange for staying with us rent-free so she could save up for a deposit on a proper apartment. Everything was fine at first. Hannah has ADHD and took a week to adjust to living with us. During that week she did all the chores my wife has been neglecting without us asking her to. I tried to tell her she didn't have to do all of them, but my wife waved me off and said Hannah's ADHD makes her want to do it. Hannah backed her up. After she cleaned something my wife would thank Hannah a lot. I thanked her as well, but my wife did it constantly, which seemed strange to me. My wife dismissed my questions and said it was normal to do with people with ADHD. Since then my wife has pushed all childcare and any household chores I don't do onto Hannah. She has also been increasingly rude to Hannah and yelling at her if she makes a mistake on the first try of doing something. I tried to intervene when I was at home, but my wife would accuse me of wanting to let Hannah lay around the house being lazy because she was she and I got into a huge fight about her using that word to describe Hannah and didn't speak for a few days. My breaking point came when I found out my wife had been making Hannah pay her rent and buy baby supplies. I pay all the bills and the money Hannah had been giving my wife was not going towards the house. My wife was using it to go out with her friends. My wife also made Hannah pay for food. I usually give my wife the money for food and she bought snacks for herself with Hannah's contribution. I had another fight with my wife where she said Hannah was lazy and if she didn't like her rules then Hannah could sleep on the street and get out of her house. That's when I told my wife it's my house, but she doesn't pay any bills and at this point doesn't do anything but be as lazy as she accuses Hannah of being. I would rather live with Hannah. My wife got quiet and has been refusing to talk to me or Hannah for the past few days, and I'm starting to think I crossed a line. Comment 1. Your wife is neither a Sahun nor a Zam. She isn't even staying at home, she's always off out with her friends. It's absolutely brilliant that Hannah is so happy to look after Sadie and do the housework, and you need to tell your wife how pleased you are with this new arrangement, as you now have a live-in nanny, housekeeper, and your wife, who clearly wasn't content with her stay-at-home lifestyle, can now go out and get a full-time job to pay Hannah for her work and have extra money for herself. I'm sure she'll be absolutely thrilled with the suggestion. Just be sure to thank her for making it all possible by sitting on her backside while Hannah took over all of her responsibilities to free her time up so that she can contribute financially to the household. Comment 2. Do you understand what a huge red flag it is that your wife lied to you and Hannah when she took Hannah's money and kept it for herself? Like huge. No wonder they never got along. That's because your wife is a twat. Apparently she is totally comfortable lying to your face. And Hannah's. And she has no problem pretending not to be married. You should grant her that wish. Comment 3. Your wife is abusing her sister and everyone around her. Honestly, I'd consider divorce. Maybe even tell the sister she is welcome to stay if she can continue to help out and maybe pay a reasonable amount of rent and bills. Say 70% to 80% for you and the rest on her depending on how much she is responsible for helping out around the home. NTA, but honestly this can't continue. I 23F have a biological brother, 24, and an adopted sister, 27. She was adopted when I was a year old and she was around 4. For most of my life, my sister received all the attention from our parents and my brother and I were just there. My parents would bend over backwards to make sure she felt like a part of the family, which is great, except they didn't bother to make my brother and I feel included. When she was 19, we found her biological family and they have a great relationship now. But I feel like this completely ruined our own family dynamic. Our dad died 5 years ago, and it seems like she just moved on from our dad to the other dad and is also slowly moving on from our family to her biological family. Her biological mum's side also seems to have a problem with us because we are white and my sister is black, so every time we try to be involved in activities, there are always jabs at us, and I think they encourage her to become distant from us. My mum still acts like my sister is the center of our world though. The last 2 Thanksgivings, we had to have family Thanksgiving dinner days before because my sister was going to have Thanksgiving with her bio family. Same for the previous Christmas, we exchanged gifts by the 20th, and my sister didn't even bring my nephew as he was at his bio grandma's. My final straw has been a trip we had been planning in honor of my dad. On the 5-year anniversary of his passing, we were going to plant an orchard in a certain African country my dad worked and lived in for years and we visited many times. Planting this was something my dad had planned before he died and had it planned to a T, so we would only be executing his plan. We had agreed that the 5-year anniversary felt like the perfect time. Except now, my sister's biological sister will be getting married around the same time, not same day, but it means my sister can only join us after the actual anniversary day. My mum says it's okay, we can plant the trees a week or 2 later, and she actually said that when we plant the trees doesn't make much difference, we'll still be honoring him, but that my sister will only ever get to attend her sister's wedding once. She says it's a week's worth of work anyway, so it's not like we were going to be done on the actual day. This made me mad and I have told them I will be breaking the ground on the actual anniversary day with or without any of them. She said I was being inconsiderate and that I should think about how this will make my sister feel like she doesn't matter to the family. My sister has been part of our family the same amount of time I have been, only she can exclude herself. My brother keeps flip-flopping between coming with me to be there for the anniversary, or waiting for my mum and sister some days later, and I honestly can't also blame him. AOTA for insisting I am not waiting on anyone. The trip is in 2 months. Comment 1. Stop arguing with your mom and brother, it's pointless. Control the one thing you can control, your presence. I'm available on Thanksgiving, not the day before. And then stick to it. Be unyielding and then everyone else will have to make their own decisions. I distance myself from people who don't make me feel good about myself. Make your friends your new family. Comment 2. NTA for how you're feeling. It sounds like you've built up years of resentment, and considering your adopted sister seems to have gotten 2 families and you and your brother the scraps of only one, I'm sure is super hurtful. Have you ever had a deeper conversation with your mother about how all this is impacting you? Might be good to put it out there, and if it doesn't work out, maybe consider putting distance between your mum and sister and yourself, and some therapy to unpack it all. Perhaps wait so you can all remember your father together and then start putting yourself first? Comment 3. NTA. It's good to leave the ball in their court. I'll be there on the anniversary. You have 2 months to make your decision. Let me know your plans so we can meet there. Leave their arrangements to them. Do not sponsor a lovely vacation for people who may try closer to the date to rearrange things behind your back. Make sure you're lead coordinator for everything so they can't meddle. I got married a month ago and am no longer talking to my husband's best friend, Julie, 30F, neither is he. Both my husband and I find what she did very untasteful and are looking to see whether we are wrong here. So, we planned for a kid-free wedding. The only kids welcome to attend was my daughters from my previous marriage, 10 and 14. Julie has 3 children, 7, 10, 11. We also had a limited amount of seating available due to pricing and food catering. So I only had 50 seats, and therefore I told Julie she could not bring her kids, but her and her husband were both invited. Julie told me very early on that she doubts she could find a babysitter and made it clear she refused to hire someone they did not know, but told me she would do what she could. About 2 weeks before the wedding she confirmed that her mom was watching the kids. But then 2 days before the wedding she messages me and says that her mom bailed on babysitting for one reason or another. I can't remember what I said in response. But anyways, wedding day comes and only 28 people of the 50 show up. I post on Facebook saying I have 22 extra seats at my wedding. Message me if you would like to join us on our special day. I figured Julie would be the first to reach out, but she never did. She reacted to my post, but that was it. She missed the wedding. My husband was very upset, because this was literally his best friend and he wanted her there. So anyways, I reached out to her a few days later and told her that me and Wesley are very hurt that she did not come and that this was our big day and we needed her. She responded with, "Did you expect me to leave my kids in the car by themselves? At home? At a hotel?" I said, "No, I expected you to reach out to me and ask me if your kids could come after knowing that no one else showed up." She says, "Okay. So you have a kid-free wedding and you expected me to look like a jackass by asking you to make an exception for my children to attend instead of just messaging me directly?" My husband and I immediately blocked her after her hostile responses. He's feeling pretty shitty and thinks we may have overreacted. I think we are in the right, however. Comment 1, YTA. Normally these posts are about people disrespecting the bride and groom and forcing their kids on the wedding party. Julie respected your choice for a child-free wedding. At no point did you say, "Hey, we have 22 spare places, so we can accommodate kids if you have them." Any normal person would assume you were adhering to the no-child rule and were offering 22 adult places. You're the ones who should have contacted her to offer to relax your own rules. Now you're pissed because she did exactly what you told her to? Your husband should be feeling shitty because you both were shitty to Julie. Comment 2. YTA. You told her that she could not bring her kids. And now that she respected that, you're very hurt she didn't come. Then you dared to tell her you expected her to not respect that and to nag you for invites? You think you're in the right? Well, that's a no. Your friend has it completely correct. Comment 3. YTA here. You doubled down on kid-free wedding and now are mad at her for not knowing she should bring her kids to the kid-free wedding? Who just posts an open FB invite after making such a big deal about only enough seats for 50 people? Almost half of your friends didn't even bother to show up at your wedding. Can you really afford to block some of the few real friends you have? Fall on the "sorry I was a bridezilla" sword and apologize and tell her that you were in panic mode with so many no-shows and you really screwed the pooch by not personally reaching out to her and her family to invite all of them, and you and your husband are embarrassed by how badly you acted. Invite them over for a family-style barbecue and get things back on track. My 23F workplace decided to have a potluck and everyone brought a dish. My co-worker's 56M, let's call him Dave, wife was kind enough to make 2 huge pans of biryani, crispy onions and a homemade yogurt which was delicious. After the potluck there were leftovers, so we all brought some home and I guess Dave left everything he brought, including the serving spoons, at work until the next day. After everyone took their leftovers there was about 2 servings left in one tin, so I asked if I could just take the whole tin home. It was one of those Dollarama pans that you throw out after. He gladly said yes. I come in for work the next day and Dave asks me if I had seen the serving spoon he brought yesterday and I said no. I helped him look for it in the kitchen and we couldn't find it, so I said I'd double check the tin I took home. I get home and it's not there. He texts me asking about it and I tell him it's not there. He insists I check again and I just didn't respond. The next day at work he asks about it again. Admittedly I was kind of getting annoyed because it's a spoon. How expensive could it be? I told him I already checked and I don't have it. He replies, "Well, what am I supposed to do now? My wife cooked for you guys and sent cutlery and now it's missing. She's going to be very upset and she's not going to want to cook for you again." I jokingly responded, "I'm not sure what you're going to do. I guess we'll have to buy her a new one if this means no more biryani," and he goes, "Yeah, you will." He asked about us replacing it later that day, and I said if you knew your wife would be this upset about a spoon you should have made sure to round them up and bring them home last night. It's not anyone else's responsibility to replace it. Obviously it's just a spoon and I wouldn't mind replacing it, but I have no idea what happened to it, neither does anyone else. and I feel like his wife's anger isn't our problem. I do feel kind of bad because she was nice enough to make lots of food for us, but I don't see how him leaving the spoons at work and one of them going missing means we should replace it. Comment 1. NTA, but I'm not sure how familiar you are with Indian aunties, especially 50 plus. Right now Dave, and your entire office, are, in her mind, ungrateful, careless, wasteful heathens. He probably hears about this spoon every time he walks into the kitchen. My in-laws are quite well off, solidly in upper middle class in Southern California. She will still lose her shit if she sees a container in the garbage that hasn't been absolutely scraped clean. She cuts and reuses Amazon bags as trash can liners, has used the same pot to make her chai masala for decades, and has a bucket that she collects the water from when she heats up the water for the shower so she can water the garden with it and not be wasteful. She grew up watching her family scrape to make ends meet and her parents sacrificing, and she saves literally everything. So while the spoon isn't a big deal to you, it is probably a huge deal to Dave's wife. Even if you replace it, which your office should to keep the peace, she will continue to make comments about him/his co-workers losing her spoon anytime she makes food for a group function, regardless of who/where. Comment 2. My money is still on the wife planning to send the disposable stuff but Dave grabbing the actual silverware without her knowing he took them. Now Dave's lost her actual silverware and he's facing an angry wife at home, so he's desperate to find it. She sent the food in the disposable stuff, so it seems strange to send the good silverware with him.